detective is the most intense and most rewarding role in Shinri Trial, but the fear of one mistake, the kind that can solo throw around for the whole server, keeps a lot of people away from that sheriff badge. On top of that, there is basically no way to practice the mechanics safely, and Shuichi players constantly deal with getting bullied by their classmates. Pro tip: just pick the best waifu, okay? So yeah, it won't be easy, but let me tell you that it's not as scary as it looks. As long as you have a foundation, you just need the basics that always work. Everything after that is improvisation and endless practice. Now let's make it so that killers are shaking at trial, not your knees. Let's go. But before we continue, just two things. This guide was recorded on June 21, 2026 on game version 1.7.5.5. If mechanics change, we will update the guidebook at kirigiris.press. And if you are new to the game, I would recommend watching this video first. It covers the basics, then come back here. Go watch it, this video will be waiting for you after. If playing as Kyoko Kirigiri or Shuichi Sayahara feels like too much pressure right away, pick any character you like. Start as a partner, you don't need to be a deduction genius. Being a useful witness is more than enough. Just so you know, there is no separate partner mechanic in the game. You just walk up, offer to help the detective, and then patrol the academy together or separately and collect testimonies. It's not in the detective's interest to refuse, and if they do, nothing stops you from running your own parallel investigation. While the detective takes all the social pressure, you are quietly learning the basics and mechanics. Find a notepad and ask the detective to copy their fingerprint records. Write down absolutely everything. Monokuma Events, suspicious behavior, who is where and when. Don't forget to include yourself. What Monokuma Events are and how to log them I will cover in detail in the daily life section. Kyoko and Shuichi have a notepad and UV flashlight from the start. But since you are Dr. Watson for now, those aren't in your inventory. You'll need to find or buy them. The UV flashlight can be found right here. Spawn rate is low, so don't stress about it. Work mostly off other players' statements and what you observe while patrolling. Or just buy one in the shop for 750 monocoins. Yes, you heard that right, 750 coins. Two detectives would make things a lot harder for killers, so from that angle it makes sense. How do you know when you're ready to take the badge yourself? Honestly, there is no perfect moment. You'll never feel fully ready, but you can set yourself a minimum. Understand the mechanics, solve a couple of cases, and successfully carry a few trials on your shoulders as a partner. That's when you take the sheriff badge. And two critical tips before your first game as detective, or really in general. First, learn the server rules like you are applying to be an admin, not just a player. Remember, rules work in your favor only if you know them better than whoever's breaking them. Second, I recommend recording your screen every session. OBS, Metal, Shadowplay, doesn't matter. Recordings are for potential reports, sorting out disputed situations, and analyzing your own mistakes. Seriously, don't be lazy about setting it up. You will thank yourself later, I promise. Stock up on consumables, at minimum food, zip ties, bandages, batteries, and when needed, don't be afraid to ask others for help. It's common at the start of the game for most doors to be unlocked. Players leave them open when looting to save time, or just forget and don't bother. Use that window to take fingerprints. If a door is locked, ask the player directly first. If they refuse, take prints yourself. You get to meet the cast, and if you're caught, you can counter with "I already tried asking," and you won't be lying. You can pick a dorm room with a lockpick without permission. Breaking it with a crowbar at the start of the game and without an RP reason violates the rule 4.3. And by the way, if you started the Watson pass, worth knowing that lockpicking is easier on some characters. Kokichi and Mondo have slower pin drops, so the lock is easier to crack. The UV flashlight has 20 uses, 5% charge per fingerprint. Simply shining it doesn't drain charge. You can recharge it at the electrical panel or with batteries which your classmates will often supply you with. Sometimes so many you'll run out of inventory space. Keep 2 notebooks, one on you, one in a safe in case you die or the main one gets stolen. Let trusted players know about the second one. Copy your notebook contents to clipboard with Ctrl-C. If someone edits or steals it, you can restore it with Ctrl-V. Patrol the academy constantly. Your presence alone can prevent a murder or provide key testimony. Always close doors behind you. The killer will have to leave a fingerprint to open it and waste their time. Double check your fingerprint records. You can sometimes write them down wrong and then build theories on that mistake, only to catch it at trial. True story, happened to me a couple of times, so don't repeat my mistakes. Check for fingerprints at the workbench in the gym and the medical lab in the infirmary. Also in the secret room on the second floor of the abandoned dormitory and in chemistry lab on 4th floor. Check players' gloves and night vision goggles. You can do this by walking up to a player and pressing T button to inspect, and ideally write it all down in your notepad. If you see a player with bloody hands, write it down too, even if they say it has nothing to do with any murder. Get to know the cast. Track who hangs out with whom and where. It helps identify motives even before a murder happens. There are 3 types of Monokuma events in the game. Masquerade, all players put on disguises and hide their identities. Blackout, lights go out across the entire academy. Teleport, everyone gets randomly moved to different spots on the map. And by the way, the teleport event runs on a timer. There is no logic around group size. Okay, just between us, by my calculations, events repeat in the range of 12 to 14 in-game hours, counting from the start of the event, not the end. Even regular Monokuma broadcasts, so-called random announcements, count as an event. Examples on screen. Write every event in your notepad. For Blackout and Masquerade, always record the start and the end. Helps reconstruct alibis, figure out when the killer could have moved unnoticed, and so on. And understanding the timings can help predict the next event and say set up an alibi by gathering the cast in one place. Players set traps all over the map, especially in hallways and near room doors. A stunned, sedated, or worse, dead detective helps no one, so be careful and watch your step. Also, teleport spots are fixed, and there are just over 16 of them on the first floor, meaning killers can preset traps on those spots, so stay careful. How to take fingerprints from an item. Right mouse button on the item, inspect, hover over hints until the progress bar fills, properties appear, bloody, fingerprints with the player's letter or cleaning traces if someone wiped it. To take a print as evidence, right mouse button, take fingerprints, select the relevant one from the submenu. Works on any item. For surfaces, doors, lockers, workbench, medical lab, take out the UV flashlight, point at the print and press F. The fingerprint goes straight to your inventory. Shoe prints are collected the same way as fingerprints, just choose Shoe Prints profile instead. The game has 16 unique fingerprints and 16 unique shoe prints, and I mean visually unique. Sometimes, thanks to that, you can skip the UV scan. Say if a bloody print was found near the body. You can ask players to step in the blood puddle by the body and visually compare the prints. Then, by process of elimination, potential killer identified without a single UV scan. Sometimes you can trick players into leaving their prints. Ask player to check an item or location under some pretext. Ask to borrow something or just follow someone and note what they touch. One caveat: there may already be other prints there, so always double check or use process of elimination from known prints. Bloody hands, gloves, a mop and weapons don't wash off with a bottle of water or from being in water in the pool or bathhouse, only with a rag or a sink, which oddly doesn't exist there. The one exception, the bloody hands effect, can be removed with the Serum of Hope. Zip ties and handcuffs restrict a player. They can move, but can't open doors or interact with anything. A bag on the head blocks vision, but doesn't prevent discovering a body. Duct tape on the mouse prevents voice chat. Here is how it all works. You can also anchor a player when they're in zip ties or handcuffs. Grab them and select the spot where you want to anchor them. They won't be able to run away. And by the way, during a teleport event the anchored player still gets moved, but they will stay in the zip ties or handcuffs at the new location. Zip ties are cut with a kitchen knife, katana or kitchen axe. Handcuffs are opened only with a screwdriver or your own key if you're the one who puts them on. You can put them on yourself, but you can't remove them on your own. Keep in mind that relationships between players matter a lot. Conflicts and personal grudges can become motive for murder. Corners are easier to check in third-person view thanks to the wider field of view, but take fingerprints in first person. At first, check the clock after every encounter with another player. Once you build the habit and have a better feel for when it's worth checking and when it's not, use it as needed. That was the core kit, enough to step into your first game. What comes next is nuance. If you're not ready to dig into it yet, the next section in the timestamps in the description. If you're curious, let's keep going. In the early stages of the game, you can collect gunpowder from the boiler room and infirmary to prevent explosive or explosive trap crafting. Keep it in your safe or give it to a trusted player. Filling a container to the limit stops items from spawning in it. For example, 5 kilograms of scrap metal or really anything in the boiler room blocks gunpowder spawns until those items are removed. Technically, you could get banned for griefing, but I'm not sure, so probably don't do that. Check fingerprints on the knife block in the kitchen. It's the only place in the entire academy where the kitchen knife and kitchen axe spawn. Helps narrow the suspect list when the weapon is one of those two. Early trial strategy. At the start of the round, check the tool rack in the shop. It spawns a wrench, hammer and crowbar. Note or memorize what spawned. Then cross-reference with hammer checks. Everyone gets one in their dorm room, and if someone at trial can show theirs and can explain where it went, that's already a solid lead. On early trials with little evidence, this method can actually catch someone red-handed. Also keep in mind that blunt weapons spawn in the following locations. Okay, this sounds like paranoia, but I still have to say it. Try not to stand still during a conversation. Zip ties go on in seconds. Shift slightly side to side. If you have to stop, press your back to a wall and control as wide angle as possible. When taking prints, ask the player to step back a bit. Looks weird? That's the point. But you probably won't get zip tied. You can use voice-to-text software, for example Whisper Flow, to dictate notes directly into the detective's notepad. Faster than typing manually. The app only transcribes voice to text. If you are locked in the freezer and aren't handcuffed or zip-tied, you can arrange meat from the containers or items from your inventory in the shape of the killer's initials. Or if you have one, just write the killer's name in your notepad. Traps can be disarmed with any item, even a coin, but rectangular props work best, easier to throw and hit the wire. Be careful with explosive traps, stay back so the blast doesn't catch you. You can also pick up a trap with a screwdriver, at least your own for sure. Body discovered, daily life is over, investigation begins. Timer's running, here is what we do. Press G to highlight evidence at the crime scene. Hold it while walking around the room. You will spot clues even behind objects. Ask players not to touch the body. The killer may have left prints on the victim. Extra contact make finding the killer's prints harder. Rarely works since everyone usually starts searching the poor guy right away, but it's still worth trying. The body is automatically announced by Monokuma after 6 in-game hours, if fewer than 3 students have found it by then. There are 2 types of gloves. Regular gloves are reusable. While worn, all fingerprints left are smudged. Disposable gloves also smudge prints but are good for 10 uses. After that they tear, and from that point leave regular prints. Fingerprints come in 4 types: regular, smudged, bloody and bloody smudged. Regular and bloody prints can identify the owner. Smudged and bloody smudged unfortunately cannot. Regular and smudged prints, I mean non-bloody, can't be seen without the UV flashlight. Remember that regular fingerprints disappear after 18 in-game hours, or 15 real minutes. Blood prints after 36 in-game hours or 30 real minutes. Write down the time of body discovery, that tells you how long the killer had to hide evidence. There are 4 keycards in the game: staff room, technical areas, the abandoned dorm floor and the head of academy keycard, which combines all 3. All keycards give access to the location they are named after, but worth highlighting the technical areas keycard. It gives access to the technical room on floor 3 and the one between floors 3 and 4. There are also a tech room on 5th floor, but it is accessible without a keycard. The dorm garden, floors 4 and 5, only via trials or repairs. Keycards don't work there. Breaking a door with a crowbar leaves no fingerprints on the door. The killer can use this to hide their presence there. But of course there is a side effect, a loud sound that alerts everyone nearby. The blood puddle clue confirmed the body wasn't moved, meaning the victim died right there. Traces from traps and thrown weapons help reconstruct the scene, what was used and how many times. Downside, they can be mopped up before you arrive. But our saving grace is that the Monokuma file's description of a death by trap or weapon can't be erased, not even with a mop. The killer or a trickster, sometimes just a troll, can wipe evidence with a mop. Blood trails and puddles, fingerprints and shoe prints, trap and thrown weapons traces. If you arrive at the scene and see none of the above, that doesn't mean there was nothing. Someone just may have done their job. Check container weights and scroll to the bottom cells or use auto-sort. Evidence is often hidden at the bottom, but evidence can also be lying around as props, in hiding spots, outside containers behind objects. Sometimes it's worth checking dorm rooms for evidence, armed with lockpicks or a crowbar. Items dropped on the floor go to the incinerator dumpsters after 24 in-game hours or 20 real minutes and stay there for the rest of the game until someone retrieves them. There are 3 types of shoe prints: bloody, stepped in the victim's blood puddle; wet, entered the water in bathhouse or pool; and muddy, was in the garden by the cafeteria or in the garden by the dorm. The effect lasts 10 steps, then disappears, and those 10 steps themselves disappear after 12 in-game hours or 10 real minutes. Best seen through the UV flashlight. Note or remember who runs from the crime scene and who wasn't present when the body was discovered. Early in the game, handcuffs and gloves on a player strongly suggest they've been in the staff room or at least received them from someone who has. Keep in mind that the killer may not have acted alone, an accomplice may have crafted or handed over the murder weapon. There is always a possibility that the killer is already dead by the start of investigation. For example, a trap may have been set in a previous chapter by the victim or the killer. Another scenario, the killer committed the murder and was then killed by another player. Remember that motives can carry across chapters. An ally of the victim or the killer's accomplice may want revenge. After landing a hit with a weapon, a bloody hands label appears above the player. However, if the hit was delivered wearing gloves, that label won't appear. The gloves will become bloody, but the hands stay clean. Also worth noting, bloody gloves can't be washed off at the sink, at most wiped with a rag. Bug present as of the recording of this video, game version 17.5.5, all torn disposable gloves register as bloody, but there is a difference. Just bloody versus having a bloody fingerprint. Second one confirms that a hit was landed in those gloves and possibly a murder committed. The bloody hands effect only appears from striking a player with a melee weapon before the investigation. During investigation, you can't get this effect, not from dragging, not from punching, and not from picking up a bloody weapon. 3 scenarios: no gloves and no disguise, regular bloody fingerprints. In disguise without gloves, smudged bloody fingerprint, but the bloody hands effect remains. Remove the disguise and they become regular bloody fingerprints. And third, with gloves or disguise with gloves. Only the gloves become bloody, hands stay clean. The only exception, torn disposable gloves. Your hands will become bloody after striking with them. Wound description depends on the weapon category and body part. Within one category, all weapons give the same description. For example, kitchen knife and kitchen axe, both piercing cutting, leave the same wound, but differ from blunt weapons. For blunt weapons specifically, a hit to the right arm, right leg or stomach is recorded as crushing hit, while a hit to the left arm, left leg or chest is recorded as a blow from a blunt object. Blunt weapons: baseball bat, crowbar, hammer, wrench and lead pipe. Piercing cutting: katana, kitchen knife, kitchen axe, fire axe and genocide jack or Jill scissors. Hybrid weapon, so far only one in quick games, the shovel. And shameless plug, a full breakdown of damage and descriptions for each weapon is in the guidebook, link in the description. Normal strike, overhead strike and right mouse button strike all look identical in the Monokuma file. Exception, the katana's right mouse button attack is described differently. In case of death from starvation or sleep deprivation while in zip ties or handcuffs, whoever puts them on is responsible. And yes, this method is prohibited. By the rules, you can't hold another player against their will for more than 5 minutes. But of course that doesn't mean you won't have to solve cases like this. As they say, forewarned is forearmed. If a player dies from hypothermia in the freezer or heat stroke in the bathhouse, whoever closed the door is responsible. Hypothermia sets in after approximately 3 minutes and 31 seconds of real time. Heat stroke kills faster, approximately 2 minutes 28 seconds of real time. Knowing this, we can look at the time of the death and estimate when the victim entered location. Sleeping pill takes effect approximately 1.5 real-time minutes after consumption. Duration of effect 3 real-time minutes. The killer cannot become a witness until killer's instinct fades. Takes 20 real seconds. And furthermore, they can never be the first witness regardless. However, once at least one player has found the victim, the killer can become the second or third witness, including simultaneous discovery. If 2 or more murders are committed by different players, the trial is held for the body found first. The other murders go unpunished. It's worth keeping in mind that the killer gets a notification when their victim triggers a trap. They also have killer's instinct after the kill. For 20 seconds it shows the location of other players in a medium radius. This lets them plan their escape route and fabricate an alibi. The killer can restrict themselves, put on zip ties, handcuffs, duct tape, a bag to earn themselves an alibi with "I was restrained, therefore I couldn't have killed anyone." But they can only remove the bag on their own. The killer can poison food with poison or a sleeping pill, either in their own inventory or by approaching a container. Here is a visual demonstration of how it works. If one ingredient in food is poisoned, the resulting food is poisoned too. Example, poisoned cheese used to make a sandwich. One killer or a killer accomplice pair cannot commit more than 2 murders per chapter. If there are 3 or more bodies, most likely there are at least 2 independent killers on the server. For this violation there is an automatic mass kill penalty. The killer who kills the third player dies instantly and their victims are revived. Killing a player in the presence of more than one witness is prohibited. Exception: 4 people in a room, the killer, an accomplice, and the killer and accomplice intend to kill the other 2. Practical takeaway: you are safe in a group of at least 3 people, ideally 4 or more. If the rule is broken, file a report and attach your recording. A false alibi doesn't always mean deliberate lying. Players mix up times, forget where they were, misread or miswrite the in-game clock. Clarify first, the person may have simply made a mistake. That said, it also means you can't always trust alibis. Ideally, as many people as possible should be able to confirm one. Strikes on the body after the victim's death leave no wounds. The Monokuma file only records injuries sustained while alive. Damage descriptions in the Monokuma file go in chronological order, but secondary state details like sedation are always appended after the damage entries, regardless of when they happened. So if a player was knocked out by a Somnus grenade, woke up and then killed, the Monokuma file will show the killing blow first, and the sedation effect after. That's not a bug, that's how it works. But there are actual bugs, hits that don't register in the file at all, or damage descriptions that come out in the wrong order. I've seen it a couple of times during testing for this video. If you see the description "was knocked out by a strong blow during hypothermia/heatstroke", know that the victim fell from temperature exposure, not from another player's hit. The electrical panel, supercomputer and air purifier cannot be repaired during investigation, and recently no events triggered during this period either. Investigation time depends on open gates, 7 minutes at game start, plus 2 minutes per unlocked floor, maximum 15 minutes. During investigation you can't take damage or die, and stamina, alertness and hunger don't drain. Prop kills exist but are considered bug abuse and are banned. That said, you may still have to solve cases involving them, so here is what they look like and what description the Monokuma file gives. While unconscious, a player is immune to fall damage, but I will say right away it won't save you from explosives or a Molotov. Fists deal 8 to 12 damage per hit, same for all characters, but deal no damage to a player at 20 health points or below, and yes, you can't kill with fists. So that's the working minimum for investigation. Again, nuances ahead. You can skip and go to the trial section in the timestamps, but if you're still curious, let's keep going. Ideally, ask everyone to stay at the discovery location and post someone at the exit. This lets you inspect players and potentially shorten the suspect list. If someone refuses to be inspected or leaves, that's the grounds for suspicion. Write down the time of each repair stage. That tells you exactly when the boiler room, dorm garden and upper floors opened. Helps catch false alibis. For example, someone says, "I was at the boiler room," but it hadn't even opened yet, and reconstruct routes, who could physically have been in the right place at the right time. Establish the alibi window for this murder. Recall who you can personally vouch for during that time. How? Take the time of death and collect alibis from other players for that window and around it. Once you've identified the murder location, cross-reference statements and estimate whether each person could physically have been there. Most importantly, can anyone actually confirm their alibi? One person isn't always enough, since they could be an accomplice. Find out from other players who is the last person who saw the victim, when, where, and was anyone else nearby. Trace the killer's likely route, where they came from, where they could have washed their hands or the weapon. Sinks are located in the bathrooms by the gym, near the dorm, on the abandoned dorm floor, on floors 2 and 4, the infirmary, laundry room, kitchen, dorm rooms, art room storage and chemistry lab. If time allows, check your own room for traps at the end of investigation. Sometimes a killer uses the investigation period to set a trap intended to catch someone at the start of the next chapter. Stun and sedation effects timers reset at teleport and at the start and end of Masquerade. Applies to any stun or sedation, Somnus grenade, electric trap or sleeping pill. If the body was found without a disguise, the murder likely happened before or after Masquerade. The Masquerade disguise can be removed by moving it to the victim's inventory. Moving it to your own inventory removes it from the victim's, but the disguise itself won't come off. There is also a bug with disguises where a player puts one on before Masquerade starts and then can't remove it afterward, even after death. The technical room on 3rd floor is a hub for several routes: technical breach in the gym, 3rd floor itself, ventilation to the library archive, men's toilet on 2nd floor, pool and boiler room. It lets you move quickly between floors 1, 2 and 3. Keep this in mind when reconstructing the killer's route. A car wheel and fuel canister work as platforms and help reach evidence that's above the player model. If multiple players poison the same food, who do you think is the killer? Right answer: priority goes to poison strength. If the poison is the same, whoever poisoned it first is the killer. Monokuma takes the suicide victim's body after 6 hours along with their entire inventory. This makes it the perfect spot to stash evidence. As detective, you can use it in reverse. Dump weapons, traps and gunpowder there for safekeeping and check it for hidden evidence. Let's quickly run through the timings on all the poisons. Despair poison. Victim dies roughly 2 minutes 14 seconds after consuming. Widow's kiss. About 3 minutes. Acid, approximately 5 minutes 34 seconds. Details on screen. The line "died in their sleep" in the Monokuma file means the player was killed while under the effect of a Somnus grenade or sleeping pill. Death during a hug gives an interesting Monokuma file. Multiple injuries recorded on the body. Fabric fibers from another person found on the inner forearms and chest, indicating close contact at the time of death. With a melee weapon, the murder weapon isn't listed. But support team confirmed that it's a bug they are aware about and should be fixed in the near future. Now I'd like to go through some combo kill scenarios we managed to test at players' request. Case 1. Someone threw cabbage, the vegetable prop model, and another person hit it with a katana into a victim. The killer is the one who threw the cabbage. The Monokuma file shows blunt force injuries. The katana used to strike the projectile isn't mentioned, nor is the kinetic projectile that normally appears in cabbage kills. Case 2. A player was restrained, knocked out, or grabbed and thrown into someone else's Molotov. The killer is the one who threw the Molotov. Case 3. One player restrained someone, another pushed them off the technical breach in the gym. The killer is the one who pushed. Case 4. Death by prop using a door. Whoever placed the item is the killer, not whoever opened or closed the door. This is bug abuse, so don't do it. Case 5. Two players were locked in the freezer and one put zip ties on the other. The killer is the one who put on the zip ties. And naturally, the killer of the second player is whoever locked the door. On screen, all the main death descriptions you'll encounter in the game. Now the chapter's climax, the class trial. Everything we learned, gathered and noted goes into play right now. 15 minutes to identify the killer. Let's go. As I mentioned, the trial lasts 15 minutes of real time. Each player has an energy pool that starts at 0 and fills over time, or through debate victories and agreement from other players. Energy is spent on 4 actions: initiate a vote, call for a debate, interrupt, a short animation of your character plays on everyone's screen, or show agreement. The player currently shown on camera gets a notification at the bottom that you agreed with them, and their energy increases, most often used before initiating a vote. Agreement costs 15 energy, interrupt 50, debate 100 and can be fully restored if you win. Vote also requires 100 energy. All 4 actions can be cycled through with the mouse wheel, WASD keys or the up and down arrow keys. 100 energy is restored over 195 seconds of real time, roughly plus 1 energy every 2 seconds. The camera at trial follows whoever is holding the voice chat button, and everyone else is in a queue. On the right side of the screen you can select a sprite to display during the trial. Switch at any time by left clicking. You can also add sprites to favorites by pressing right mouse button. Evidence and inventory items can be presented at trial by opening your inventory, right-clicking an item and selecting Present as Evidence. Evidence such as the Monokuma file, blood puddles, trap traces and so on can be presented using the red Evidence button on the left side of the screen. Select the clue and press Present Evidence. In both cases, the evidence plays an animation visible to all players and is then added to the evidence list that everyone can view and review. If you inspect an item with a UV flashlight and find, for example, the property Bloody Fingerprint Y, presenting the item as evidence at trial will show that property to all players. The fingerprint notepad can be presented at trial. The notepad with fingerprints and other notes can be presented at trial. It's saved in past case evidence and other players can open it by pressing C and selecting Open Old Case Files. There are 2 types of debates at trial: cross-examination, a one-on-one duel, everyone else goes silent but can write in chat. Messages appear as pink text, aka noise, visible to all, and players can vote to determine the winner. The winner restores 100 energy. Any player with 100 energy can initiate a debate. Select the action, then pick the player you want to challenge. Debates last 2 minutes. The initiator of the debate can edit at any time. Second type, not agile, but a scrum debate triggered by a tie vote. Each player, one by one, gets 20 seconds to state their theory. If there is a tie 3 times in a row, the blackened wins automatically. Pay attention. At the start of trial, Monokuma announces whose case we're investigating. This matters because sometimes there are multiple bodies, and it's not clear before the trial whether there is one killer or more. At the start of trial, immediately announce murder location, murder weapon, time of death, and so on, so everyone is on the same page. Not everyone runs an investigation, and not everyone knows what's going on. Also, don't forget to share your route. That is your movements between locations with exact timings, and your alibi. Please, don't wait for someone to volunteer useful information. In the chaos, it never comes, and you can easily miss important info when everyone talks at once. So lead the case and bring structure yourself. Ask everyone one at a time, and you don't actually need to crack the case solo. Your role is to share all the information you gathered and organize the conversation so the group can crack the case together. That's the detective's job. If the trial turns into chaos and you can't properly talk to a specific player or just need to share critical information, call them to cross-examination. Everyone goes quiet and you two have 2 minutes one-on-one. Even if you didn't find any evidence during investigation, remember, you are not starting from zero. You have alibis, part of which you likely already collected during investigation. Other part you can provide yourself. You were somewhere and saw things too. Cover the rest at trial. And you don't have to go in order. Start with whoever you suspect the most. When information is scarce, watch behavior, not just words. Someone avoids a topic. Someone goes silent when they should be answering. Someone tries to take control of the conversation. These are small leads too. Rely on facts, not feelings, even when the case seems obvious. And as an addition, the loudest, most confident speaker isn't always right and sometimes deliberately misleads. So again, trust only facts. Remember that you can't immediately trust an alibi confirmed by only 2 players. They could easily turn out to be accomplices. Don't fixate too hard on one theory. Lock in your current one, then if there is time, try building an alternative. Compare them and only then choose. The strike area can itself be a clue. For example, a hit at stomach level equals the killer's shot. That said, keep in mind the killer may have used this to their advantage and deliberately chosen the strike area. In reality, a trial with no evidence is unfortunately the default. And if you found even one clue, you're already ahead. Learn to break down trials purely on testimony and analysis. When you can handle an information deficit, situation with evidence becomes much easier to navigate. If there is not enough info to build a theory, ask for more. Expand the time window for questioning. Who was doing what an hour before this? Who saw the victim earlier? If people go quiet, ask them to share anything they remember, any small detail. And there we go, now you're Sherlock Holmes. I wish I could say that, but in reality theory without practice doesn't work, so queue up a match, apply what you've learned, take your lumps and get better. And please remember, this guide isn't something to follow word for word. It's a toolkit, not a checklist. Using everything at once is exhausting and boring. So take only what fits the situation and don't turn detective into a second job. The main thing, play to enjoy it. And on that note, that's all from me. Thank you so much for watching.
Ela chega, domina o baile, é foda demais. Gata, braba, safada, bagunça meu juízo em paz. Vai rebolando, jogando corpinho sem dó nem dó. No grave que bate, que bota com bota, que bota com bota, com muita pressão. No batucão ela vem, vem.